Hey guys, it's Logan Holmes, and in this video, I've done I think I'm up to 63 now. I've done I think 63 episode reviews, and I've only done 8 movie reviews, so I need to do some more movie reviews. So, like a lot more. I'm probably going to end up doing some more. And anyway, the movie I'm going to review is Incredibles. And now I asked you guys on Twitter if you like this movie, and I got a record. This broke a record. 13 people voted. And I think I figured it out. 92% said yes, and 8% said no, and I think that's 12 who said yes, and 1 who said no. So, the majority of you like Incredibles, and that's good, because that's what I'm reviewing. So basically, the movie's, oh, and one more thing. This is my first Pixar movie review, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus more. I'm not going to focus too much on Easter eggs. Like, there's only one Easter egg I think I'm going to focus on. Because really the main thing I'm focusing on is reviewing the movie. And I will get to that one Easter egg that I'm going to focus on. So the movie starts off with interviews from Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone. And basically what they say is that, Mr. Incredible says that he wants to relax, and then, and then Elastigirl, says that she doesn't want to relax, and then Frozone says that he's a ladies' man. And then here's where we get to the one Easter egg I'm going to focus on. So this first part of the movie is set in 1949, and I'll get to the Easter egg later. So, So basically, Mr. Incredible is getting around like this, shootout, like they're on the street, and then he comes across this building, and he saves a man who's seen falling from the building, and then he comes across another guy who is going to it's a bank, and he's going to rob the bank. And then, oh, by the way, this scene I forgot about. So then, before that, he meets Buddy Pine, who says, "My name's not Buddy, my name is Incredible," because he's a fan. And then later on, Incredible comes along and says that he wants to be Mr. Incredible's sidekick. But then Mr. Incredible says, "No, I work alone." And then, Incredible, he doesn't care, and then he decides to go to the police, but he's got bombs attached to him, and then Mr. Incredible has to try and stop him. And then, you know, he saves a train that ends up being derailed. Well, the track was blown up. And then, Buddy gets arrested. And then that one guy, and then the bank, like, they haven't stopped the bank robber yet. And then, you know, oh yeah, and Mr. Incredible's about to marry Elastigirl, and then, which he does. And then, you know, and then, but then Mr. Incredible later on, he gets sued by the guy who fell out of the bank because it was he didn't want to be saved. It was a suicide attempt. And he suffered injuries. And then, like, the train company, they sued him for some reason. And then, you know, and then this guy named, Rick Dicker, offers superhero and, you know, amnesty, and as long as they promise to never continue to never work as superheroes again, and, you know, like, go underground. So then, 15 years later, Mr. Incredible works at Insuricare, and, like, he hates his boss, Gilbert Hoof. Because, and he says that he gives money to everyone, to everyone who gives him a call, and, like, all that, because of their liability, that thing. And then we go to, you know, so, and then they also have, you know, they have 3 kids, you know, they've got Dash, who is, who, you know, he gets called to the principal's office after his teacher, Bernie, or I think Bernie's what, I mean, they said his name's Bernie, and then, you know, and he says that he caught Dash putting the tack on his chair on video, because, like, you know, because he finds out that, you know, whenever that tack gets on his desk, gets on his chair, he moves. And then he says, because, you know, he has a superpower, you know, to run, you know, like, fast. And then he says, coincidence? I think not. and then the principal says, "You're free to go." But then Bernie's like, "He's guilty." And they have, and then Elastigirl and Dash have a conversation in the car, saying, like, why can't like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, and he says, Dash says, like, he wants to play sports, but then they won't let him because, because of his superpowers. And Dash is like, and he's like, but our superpowers, but Dad says our superpowers aren't something to be ashamed of, and they make us special. And then, Elastigirl's like, everyone special, Dash, and then Dash is like, which is another way of saying that no one is. And then they also pick up Violet, who, and then Tony, who, is in love with Tony Ridinger, and then she hides, like, whenever he tries to look at her. Then they pick her up, and then, they get to the house, and then and then, okay, Mr. Incredible, he's, in traffic and all, and, like, he... And then, he, like, he picks his car, like, he, like... has his hand, like, on, like, the top of the car, and then it goes down, so the window, the door won't shut. He tries it twice, and then, he slams it, and then the window breaks, and then he picks the car up, and then there's this kid there. So then they go in the house, and then, they're eating dinner. So, and then, so then, their Dash talks about, and then, so then, Mr. Incredible, so, okay, this is where the Easter egg comes in at. Mr. Incredible's reading a newspaper that says 1964 on it. So since those earlier events were 15 years ago, then we know that that was in 1949. And then, they're having dinner, and then, and then, Mr. Incredible's, cutting Dash's steak, and then, oh, and by the way, Bon Voyage was the name of the robber from earlier, I just remembered. So yeah, Mr. Incredible's cutting Dash's steak, and then, Elastigirl talks about Dash's trip to the office. And then, Mr. Incredible's like, that's good. And then Elastigirl's like, no, that's bad. Dash got sent to the office. And he was like, what for? And then, he put a tack on his teacher's chair during class. And then Mr. Incredible's like, how fast were you going? You must have been booking it. And then Elastigirl's like, we're not encouraging this. And then Mr. Incredible's like, I'm not encouraging this. I'm just asking to see. And then how fast he was going. And then the plate breaks. And then, Mr. Incredible, he's like, first the car, now we've got to pay to fix the plate. And then Elastigirl's like, the car, what happened to the car? And Mr. Incredible's like, I'll go get the plate. And then, Violet hasn't touched her food, and then, Elastigirl's like, Violet, you haven't touched your food, and then Violet's like, I'm not in the mood for meatloaf, and Elastigirl's like, well, it is leftover, Matt, what are you in the mood for? And then Dash is like, Tony Ridinger, and then, Dash and Violet have a fight with their superpowers. And then, and then Elastigirl tries to get them to stop, and then they finally stop whenever they hear the doorbell, and it's Frozone. And tonight's Wednesday, and every Wednesday is bowling night. And Frozone and Mr. Incredible, they go for bowling night. Well, it's not. They're not going bowling. What they're really doing is fighting crime. And then they end up getting, they get caught, and then, by the cops, and then Frozone's like, I'm just getting a drink. And then, he has his drink, and the cop's like, you've had your drink now, and Frozone's like, I know, freeze. And then, the cop gets frozen. And they end up getting out, and then, Elastigirl, Mr. Incredible gets home at, after 11, and Elastigirl's there, and she's like, you said you'd be home by 11. And then, she finds out about what Mr. Incredible's been doing. And yeah. And then Mr. Incredible, he ends up getting, he ends up seeing this guy out on, getting beat up out on the street, and, Mr. Incredible's trying to save him, so he decides, and after he gets away, and then he decides to lock Homer Simpson strangle Gilbert. And then he ends up getting fired. And then once again, that kid's there, and then the kid's, and Mr. Incredible's like, what are you waiting on? And then the kid's like, something amazing, and then Mr. Incredible's like, me too, kid. But then he ends up getting a job, kind of like a job offering for someone named Marriage. This girl named Marriage. Then she says, that gets him triple the money. Like, it's another, like, superhero kind of job. I mean, superheroes, they're illegal, but still, like he has to fight the Omnidroid. Then, he ends up destroying the Omnidroid, and then he ends up talking to Myridge, and why are you under, why, of all the places, why are you in a volcano? And it's because his her servant, I guess, just likes it here. And then Mr. Incredible then goes to Edna, who is a costume designer, a super suit designer, and then, his super suit has a tear in it, and Edna's like, you need a new super suit. And then, Edna is against capes because she mentions 5 different superheroes who got killed because of their capes. So they end up getting a new. And then Edna assumes that Elastigirl knows about this, so Edna makes super suits for the whole family. And then eventually Elastigirl ends up finding out about what Mr. Incredible has been doing after she sees the tear in his super suit. So then Edna shows Elastigirl the super suits. And then Bob ends up, finding out about Operation Kronos, which is the final Omnidroid, and it is it's it's going, and it's going to, destroy, everyone, and then, Mr. Incredible finds out that, that Incrediboy is behind this, but Incrediboy says, my name's not Buddy, and my name isn't Incrediboy either. That ship has sailed. And he says that, that he hated, he hated it after that. Mr. Incredible said, I'll work alone. And then Syndrome, he decided that he's going to turn against Mr. Incredible, and that Myridge is actually working for Syndrome, and Syndrome captures Mr. Incredible. And then, Elastigirl finds out that Mr. Incredible's been captured, and then, And Dash and Violet leave Jack, who by the way, Jack is, you know, the baby, like, of the family. Like, Dash and Violet leave Jack with the babysitter. And then, Elastigirl, Violet, and Dash, they end up going to, like, they end up, you know, flying a plane to save, Mr. Incredible, because, you know, she used to fly planes, and then, you know, and then and then Syndrome ends up shooting missiles at them, and Violet, you know, tries to put a force field around the plane, but it doesn't work.